Hello everyone, this will hopefully be a quick video. I just want to get you set up to do the worksheets for the JavaScript unit of the class here. If you've been following along with the course and you've got all the files here, you should see a bunch of worksheets in your JavaScript folder. And the first one that we're going to do is this variables and data types worksheet. So I'm going to click on that here and I'm just going to rearrange some things to make some space. And so here is all the code. Now there's questions and there's also coding problems. So the questions are going to be the same as what you've done through the HTML and CSS portion of the class. So here I'm going to go ahead and load this page in the browser here. You should be able, if you have the right extension installed in VS Code, you should be able to right click in the background here and choose Open in Default Browser. And so here it is. Here is the first worksheet for the JavaScript unit. And so if you've done the HTML worksheets and the CSS worksheets, then this will be familiar to you. You have a bunch of questions to answer, and then you have to go find the right div in the code to put your answer into it. So the questions you're probably already comfortable with. So let's see, for the first worksheet, there's quite a few questions. This is all really important stuff. But the good thing is we'll be practicing all this stuff over and over and over and over again as we continue through the course. So if you feel like you know it's overwhelming right now, don't worry. We're going to get tons and tons of practice with all these things here, declaring and initializing variables and talking about syntax and all the things that you got introduced to so far in JavaScript. Anyways, if I scroll down past the last question, whoops, looks like I have a problem here. I'm just going to ignore this and I'll fix this for you guys, but it looks like I do. Yeah, golly darn, I better fix this here. Okay, funny. I had a bug in my in the worksheet. I forgot to put in a closing tag somewhere and it messed everything up. So shame on me, but I did fix it, so everything should be okay right now. Okay, so anyways, here are the questions. There's 12 of them for the first worksheet, and if you scroll down after that, you'll see that there's the coding problems. So now what I did is I put a script element right underneath this H3 right here. So you'll have to go back to the code, and I'll show you in a second here, and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and then you'll find the coding problems. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to switch back over to VS Code. There it is, and I'm going to scroll all the way down, and here we go. It's here it is. It's about roughly line 151 or so, or 150. You'll see an opening script tag, and then I put a comment here that says coding problems, and then I put a few more comments in here, and we can talk about those in a second. And then here's the first coding problem. It looks like it's on line 162 or so. Maybe it won't be exactly the same line number by the time you get this, but around there. Anyways, you got to scroll all the way down till you find a script element, and there you'll find the coding problems. So let's just do the first one together just to get you started. So I'm going to actually rearrange some things so I can see here. So here's the first coding problem. And what I did is the instructions are in comments. So remember that lines that start with the 2 forward slashes are comments. So those are your instructions for these problems right here. So this one says declare a variable with the name of my age, and notice that's camel case, and it says and initialize it to your current age. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that step right now. And you can just put your code right underneath the instructions, those comments right there. So I need to declare a variable with the name of my age and initialize it to your current age. Okay, now what I didn't tell you here is whether you need to use let or const. So that's up to you. Now it probably won't matter, but if it does matter, you can always change it if you need to. So I didn't specify whether to use let or const, so it's up to you. Just for the heck of it, I'll go with const, but I could very well use let, and the name of the variable is supposed to be my age, and be very aware of that programmers are very sensitive people, and by that I mean case sensitive people, so that A is capitalized. I'm using camel case here. Okay, and it says the instructions also say to initialize it to your current age. So you have to know what that means. We need to set it equal to my current age, which let's just say I'm 22. Okay, now that's not really true, but I wish I was. Okay, and then this is a statement that should end in a semicolon. If you forget the semicolon, you'll probably be okay because JavaScript is pretty forgiving about that. But anyways, there we go. That's the first line in the instruction for problem 1. So what we just did is we wrote, oh, I lost my place there. What we just did is we wrote the code here, declare a variable with the name of my age and initialize it to your current age. Okay, then it says, then log my age. And I'm trying to help you out here. It says to log the variable, enter this code. So I basically gave you a hint right there. So I'll go ahead and we want to use the console.log command here. And so we set it up like that, console.log and then a pair of parentheses. And the variable that we want to show in the log is my age. So I have to type that in, and I have to type it in exactly correct, including the case. Otherwise it won't work right. And then I should put a semicolon to end that statement right there. Okay, now whenever you finish a problem, the first thing you should do is save your work and then run the code to see if your code works the way you expect it to work. So if this works the way I expect it to work, I should be able to open the web developer tools and look in the log and see something that says 22. That's the value of this variable that we're trying to log here. So at this point, I would save my work, and then I'm going to switch back over to the browser, and now I have to open up the developer tools. So I'll go ahead and press F12. And now some keyboards you have to actually hold down the FN key and press F12 at the same time. So that might be the case for you. And then I'm just going to press this little button right here to clear the log. So this button in the developer tool, or by the way, you have to be in the console tab. If you're in another tab here, you'll have to click on the console tab. And then you can press this button here to clear the log and wipe out anything that might be in there from before. And then I'm going to reload the page here. And there we go. I put a console log for each problem. So these are the console logs for all the other problems. Right there after problem 1, I see exactly what I expected. So I think I did everything right here. Okay, so that's how you can go about these coding problems. So that should hopefully get you started on the coding problems. I do have a few suggestions here. One is run early, run often. So what that means as a programmer is you want to make little changes to your code and then run it in the browser to make sure you don't have any errors. What you don't want to do is try to do all the coding problems and then after you're finished with all of them, run the code for the first time. Because what you might have are a whole bunch of bugs throughout the different problems, and it can get to be real messy then. What you want to do is finish one problem, or maybe even just part of one problem, and then run it in the browser to make sure it's working the way you expect, and then continue. So we have this mantra, run early, run often. You want to make small changes in your code, and then run the code. And the nice thing about that is it's much easier to find your bugs. If you've only written a few lines of code and you get a bug, it's a lot easier to find that bug than it is if you've written 100 lines of code and you get a bug. So run early, run often. That's one bit of advice. And let me just look here. If I go by, I put some other things in here in the worksheet itself right here. So here are some tips to help you with the coding problems. So to do this assignment, you need to know how to open the browser's developer tools, and that's by pressing F12. Now again, some keyboards you have to also hold down the FN key when you press F12. So anyways, you need to know how to do that because we have to check the console log for our output quite a bit. Pay extremely close attention to syntax. Now, beginning programmers really struggle with syntax, and the reason is because if somebody writes you a letter that has a bunch of grammar errors in it, you can usually still understand exactly what they're trying to communicate to you. But one little tiny syntax error in your code can throw you off the rails. So people aren't used to paying attention to the grammar because they think that, even if I have grammar errors, somebody will still be able to understand what I'm trying to communicate to them. Well, the computer doesn't. So if you have syntax errors, if you misspell something, or if you don't use the right capitalization, then your computer is not going to understand what you're trying to communicate to it. So this is a big gotcha for beginners, and we're not used to paying attention to the grammar or the syntax because we get sloppy with our English, but the computer won't allow us to get sloppy with our syntax. Okay, so be very aware that you're probably going to make a lot of syntax errors, and that's just one of the pains of learning how to program that you have to persevere through. Okay, so here, after you complete each problem, refresh the page in the browser and make sure that it works the way you expect it to. This is kind of like the run early, run often thing. If you get an error in the console, or if something isn't working the way it should be working, then I want you to know that you can look in the console log for an error message. And the error message itself may not be helpful, but it will also include a line number, and that can point you in the right direction to start looking for things like syntax errors. Okay, so we made the page crash quite a bit in the last video, so you saw that how to see the error messages in the console log. Okay, if you get stuck on this assignment or just a problem or any assignment, any problem, please ask for help. This stuff is difficult and it takes some hand-holding. So I start to worry about students when they never ask for help. So I expect you to have questions. This is a lot of stuff that we're trying to figure out here, and it's a kind of a different way of thinking. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Okay, there you go. I'm done, and you should be all set to do the worksheet then.